Alright then, in this chapter we're going to look at the major pentatonic licks for this book. And just like in the minor pentatonics book, there'll be a drum track with them fairly regimented to what the tab says in your book. And then with the A major backing track that you can download, I've sort of used some stylistic stuff, some slight differences to what the tab is, but exactly the same notes, just slightly different timings. So let's go and have a look at these 5 licks. Alright then, so there we saw lick 1 around the E shape, A major pentatonic. So you can see you've got a nice slide 4 to 6th on the 3rd string, the G string. Nice double stops, 5, 7, 5 on the top 2 strings. Little bend on the top string, 7th fret, coming down 7, 5. Then you'll hammer on through back to 4, 6, back to the 7th fret on the 6th string, your root note of the A there. So this is a really nice classic major pentatonic lick. Obviously it's got that much happier tonality than the minor pentatonic. And so that's what gives it its real flavour. So let's go and have a look at position 2 around the D shape. Alright, so here's a really nice lick up around the D shape of this A major pentatonic. I always tend to think that people think of major and they tend to think of slow and happy and stuff, but you can inject some more pacey licks into your playing as well, using your standard hammer-on pull-off technique. This idea here, you're hammering and pulling off through each of the individual notes, and then you're ending it with a slide on the top string and a bend, as you can see in your tab and in the lick itself. So make sure you get this nice and clean through the 7th and 9th frets on the D, the 6th and 9 on the G, the 7 and 10 on the B, and then the little variations on the top string with the slide, and then the bend on the 2nd string, as I mentioned. Let's go and have a look at example 3. Melodic bends are the real key point here in this position 3 lick of our A major pentatonic. Keep them nice and wide, gentle, flowing and smooth. So you can see here, look, some of these licks I've done a little mini kind of pickup bar where it's just the last few notes of the bar before. I wanted to write the bar out in full so you could see where it would come in that bar. If you're struggling with that, just chop that bar out and start from the main part of the bar. So, you know, you're all up around 9th and 11th frets here. Once again, we see this technique on the 12th and the 12th where you're going to have bend up the 12th fret of the 2nd string, but your little finger is already in the 12th fret of the top string. So that's quite a nice one. And releasing it down gently there as well in this lick. Let's move on to the A shape example 4. The next lick is up around the A shape, A major pentatonic. So this lick is one of my favourite licks in the book actually, just because it's so fun rhythmically. It's got a really nice groove to it. And it's quite simple in terms of specialist techniques. All you've got is sort of alternate picking and a slide right at the end. So what you want to do when you're working through this pattern is make sure that the rhythm flows really evenly. It's got this up and then back, and then up to the next note of the scale, and then back, and then up to the next note of the scale, and then a little finish. So take that slowly when you're working on this lick, and make sure you're hitting each string cleanly, because it's quite easy to hit other strings on this lick as well. Let's get on to example 5. Example 5 is around our G shape, and a lot of you will be more familiar of looking at this one as an F sharp minor pentatonic, but bear in mind that they're relative minor and majors, so they share the same notes. In this one here, we're bending up the 4th fret of the G string, and then we have our little finger covering the 5 and 5 on the top string, and then we bend again, and then our index finger on the 2 and 2. So they're covering both of them at the same time, which can take a little bit of practice to get used to. A little ending, kind of a country rocky type sort of little lick here. Quite fun to play, especially coming out of the back of an open A major chord. Can be really effective just to play some licks around this position 5, A major pentatonic. So we're going to go on and have a look at the Hindu pentatonic next. We start our adventure with some slightly more adventurous scales, so we're going to get onto that next.